What are we doing today? We're doing two.
19 till maybe we can try till 23.
Wow, you're very optimistic. Okay.
Anyway, Rabbi, good afternoon.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, we started. Okay. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Blessed be He.
Okay, yeah, blessed be He. Okay, yeah. So where are we up to?
So we completed 18 yesterday, and we could get started with 19. And how about we plan, we at least aim for the 4 verses, 19 or 5 verses. We
Um, I-
we
I'm happy to read 2 or 3, but do as many as you want.
Okay, maybe we can try 19 till 21 or okay.
Sounds good.
The Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 2, verses 19 onwards. But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. And he rose and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. Yeah, maybe you can stop there, right?
Okay. So I guess we started already. We spoke about the great scholarly debate of when Herod died.
How old was
Generally,
he? How old was he when he died?
well, like he was born in 72 BCE, right? And he died in 4, so that means like 68.
68. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, so I assume 68. And Herod Antipas took over for him. Like the stories of John the Baptist, which we'll hit up from
Mm-hmm.
Mark and from here, will be him taking over at this point. So we already had that debate, so we don't have to go through that again, but it's at least noteworthy. Unclear exactly what happened, but we know it happened before the Common Era. Really interesting. This is this magical angel of the Lord appearing in a dream. We have all our markers. Sometimes in the beginning, we weren't sure if it's a dream, but it's very clear that the gospel wants you to know that Joseph is only spoken to in dreams. Like it's very uncontentious at this point.
So, do you think is this the same angel, or is it just angel? I mean, back in the day, did they have notion of like, on the sense, did a person have familiarity with the angel, or is the
You're,
same angel?
you're asking a great question. When for example, when the 3 angels came to Abraham to say that they're going to destroy Sodom and Amorah,
Mm-hmm.
the rabbis, the Talmudic rabbis, were very quick to say, "Oh, it's Michael, it's Gabriel, it's this that." And Muhammad, when he speaks to you in the cave, we also know that he's spoken to a specific angel. And there's no doubt that a strong angelology was already developed at this point. But it looks like they'd want to diminish or minimize any kind of identity aside from God. Even the fact that I think angel of the Lord, I think is already like one step removed. So I think it'd be very surprising if we had any angel. So I don't think it's super noteworthy. I think the thing that we're supposed to know is yes, angel, not God. Yes, sleep, not awake.
So, when they use the word angel, what's meant by an angel? So, it's not God. It's not God. It's not a human being. So, who is? Is it a being, or what is like? Who
Again,
is this? What
I
is
think
this?
in the first century there would have been a very strong angelology already developed, especially when you read through the books of the prophets where angels are so prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, in the Greek, it just means messenger. It means someone who's delivering God's word. So I don't think, again, like I don't think it's any more advanced than the concepts that you would imagine in a cartoon. Some form of, again, I view angel here as not, AKA not God. Angel of
Yeah.
death,
So okay.
not
So
God.
it's not God. It's not man. When I mean man, it's not men or women.
Yeah.
It's not animals either, right?
It's
The
just meant to
people.
be like a lower level than a prophet, but higher than a regular person. Just like
Okay,
how we
but a prophet
experience.
is a person, right? A prophet is a human being, right? It's not as I mean, a
Okay, this is
prophet.
like Joseph being like a dreamer. This is Joseph was at a higher level than a regular person. It's like the dreamer level. There's a Messiah, a prophet, dreamer, person who paves sidewalks, and then me. There's the line.
Okay.
Okay.
It, it
So
feels like this angel becomes a common occurrence in Joseph's life. An angel came, said this, an angel came, said that, and then right after that, like he doesn't even think twice.
this is
Yeah,
the third time.
third time, he doesn't even
Third
think
time in
twice,
2
right?
chapters.
He doesn't even think twice. He
Well,
does
again,
whatever.
like I mentioned this earlier, it doesn't. Most people, I think, don't think twice when they are told to do something from a metaphysical being.
I
You,
wish I could say that of myself, rather than a metaphysical being said something and I didn't think
I think if
twice.
you were confident that God was speaking to you,
Yeah, okay, that's important thing,
so
confidence,
I
right?
think
So,
he's confident. Okay. So
okay.
it's also interesting, again, like I don't know how meticulous we should be in evaluating the words. Like it appeared to him in a dream in Egypt. So in Egypt is the most unnecessary word ever, unless you want to refer back like, oh, wait, did we forget that Joseph was in Egypt? So it could be that they want to make a specific point that there's a dream for a Joseph in Egypt. And that when you see those three words next to each other, dream Joseph Egypt, that's actually a very exciting thing for people who are very aware of the Bible. So it
Mhm.
could be that they specifically throw the word Egypt there to either remind you that they're still in Egypt, but it could be also that it's to remind you, just to make that parallel that you see that the Joseph dream Egypt. The thing that I think is just really hard to understand is, again, we already mentioned this, like, where does Mary play a part? Is it that just Mary is out of the game? Because Mary did show up again when the Magi showed up at her tent. She was holding Jesus. And
Mhm.
it just looks like maybe Joseph is in charge of the family. And it doesn't make sense for the angel of the Lord to speak with Mary because Joseph's making the decisions. But, I mean, come on. Mary at somehow, is Mary just a vessel that she's not important? She just happens to be the arbitrary choice. She was from, like, they had the Davidic line through Joseph. It just worked out. Or is Mary like a key holy player? And I think her absence speaks volumes.
So
It's
is
weird.
that reflective? So that's a great question. Is that reflective of the assumptions made by the evangelist? Right, because in the Gospel of Luke, it's all about Mary, right? So in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
case,
And
so
again,
in this
it's
gospel,
glaring here.
in this gospel, if the evangelist didn't mention that, is that reflective of how he viewed Mary, or is it reflective of was it reflective within Messianic Judaism in some
Yeah,
form?
100%. I don't know the
Were
answer.
women viewed were were women viewed as inferior, as vessels? So now, if that is possible, then why Rachel in the earlier verse, right? Because you said Rachel holds a very dear place.
Yeah, again,
Rachel holds.
that strengthens the question you're saying. Like Rachel has a special place, and then like even look at I went up to the next verse, but like to take the child who Jesus, take his mother. It doesn't even say her name. It's literally like as like whoever the child is, whoever the mother is, take them back. Joseph. It sounds like this is Joseph's story. That's what if I was reading this and I stop right now,
So
I
it
go,
sounds.
yeah.
So it sounds like verse 13 and verse 20 are identical word for word, except for it doesn't have "and his mother." Verse 13 says, "Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt." This one, right? Rise, take the
Right, and it's
child and
always
his mother, and
and
well,
we talked
sorry.
about how there's a precedent that it starts when they had
Well,
gone,
mhm.
A, and then B, and then after Herod died. There's always something in the history that is a catalyst for causing the angel to happen. And again, this I think also speaks to the low level of Joseph in comparison to other prophets. Joseph doesn't just get dreams. It's like God needs to tell him something, so this is the way to do it. But if he didn't need to tell him something, he wouldn't talk with Joseph. It's not like Joseph could go access God through the tabernacle or anything like that.
Mhm. Okay, I'm sorry I missed your point about mother. I probably missed verse 20. It says, "Rise, take the child and his mother." So Mary is, I mean, she's referenced here, or she's quoted here.
Well, I'm saying the
Sh
opposite. It's just his mother, though. It doesn't say Mary. Like, do we
and
not know?
and even the child, right? So the
Weird.
Jesus is just called child. He's an address by name. But this is identical with verse 13, right? Verse 13 has the same structure: "Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt." It doesn't address Jesus
Right.
by
And
name nor
again,
Mary by name.
100%, we would assume if we stopped after chapter 2, we would say this is the story of Joseph based on these kind of elements.
Wouldn't
You
you
would
also
never think
say,
the main protagonist
yeah?
is called the child.
Wouldn't you also say, I mean, in some ways it's reflective of of the theology or the assumptions made by the evangelist, because there are places where he does address Mary, right? In verse 11, it's about Mary, that the Magi come. When the Magi come, Joseph is completely out of the picture. It's Mary and the child. And so at that point, he does have a focus on Mary, that the Magi bowed down and they worshiped the child. In a sense, they partially worshipped Mary. And so in that case, I mean, in verse 11, the evangelist has her name, but in subsequent verses, she's missing. And
And it could be like, the answer to that, it could just be that there's an assumption that the angel of the Lord is speaking and it's getting dictated. This is literally what was said, and it wouldn't make sense to say Mary. You would just say, I would have said, and your wife, but there's no reason to at least say her name. Where the Magi, specifically in 2:11, say they saw the child with his mother Mary, that might have been like information for the Magi. It's not a quote, and by the way, it's interesting. The Magi saying, "Oh, why that's Mary." Again, the main point what we want to take from this, though, I think, is that this feels like the Joseph story until it's not, and that's like an important thing for us to take note of.
yeah, so even if if that's the case, right? So if you look at this, look at these dreams. This is his third dream. The first dream he's addressed as Joseph, son of David, to do fear not, to do this, do this. In subsequent dreams, it's like rise and take the child. Like Joseph is not even addressed by name.
Because it's orders. It's just because of circumstantial situations have led him, the angel of the Lord, to intervene in history to say, by the way, you're going to get killed, flee. By the way, Herod's dead, flee. It's a good question. If you want to say would Egypt not be aware that Herod died? Does he really need to be told to come back? But the truth is, we get a prophecy fulfillment out of it. That, where we say, out of Egypt, I called my son. This is the actual calling that's taking place in 2:15. And while he's not really calling the son Jesus, he's kind of symbolically calling, or I guess tangentially or vicariously calling Jesus through calling Joseph back.
What do you think their life might have been in Egypt? Like, were they living in? So they were obviously living in a foreign culture.
I think it's so, it's not like the first century they didn't know cities in Egypt. I think just like as you mentioned, the angel didn't have a name. I think it's purposeful that Egypt, that place over there, he went over there and then came back. It doesn't even matter. We don't care what he did there. We don't care where he stayed. We don't care what he ate. What mattered? He had a bunch of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. He lived a good life. And then he came back.
Yeah, it does raise obvious questions, right? What was life like? What was it like living there?
Well, the movie Dogma kind of addresses that. I don't know if you saw that. The movie Dogma addresses how the gospel kind of just skips Jesus' whole childhood.
Yeah.
And the movie Dogma talks about repeatedly, like, what would it have been like for that kind of person. Okay, I think there's, in 2:20, there's actually this really interesting thing that takes place. I just want to note it for you. It starts in 2:20 by saying, get up. So what's interesting is, get up, you could say, on the one hand, it's from a dream. So it's not, no, but the other two situations, if you look, when we have at 1:24, it just gave him directions, and then and then it says he followed the directions. And then in 2:14, it just says that he got up. So in the third dream, it's really interesting. It says arise. And I don't want to make too much of a point of this, but arise is a very famous phrase. It's the beginning of the Jewish law book, like get up and serve your creator, but also Abraham, somewhere in Exodus, I thought I wrote it down somewhere.
Okay, so
Abraham is also told in Genesis 13:17, where he says, arise, walk about the land through its length and breadth, for to you I will give it. And I don't want to make up a point that there's a parallel, but it does seem like there's a parallel. The verse in Genesis is about Abraham going and claiming the land, returning like almost heroically, saying, look everywhere, this is your land, this is all about you. So I feel like it's not too far of a stretch to say that Joseph is told to get up, not only from his sleep, because we know from the first two dreams, we don't need him to say, get up from his sleep, but he's saying, get up, arise, and it's almost like you're about to go on the holy mission. The path starts here. Everything before here was about the past, kind of about protecting the child. And if I have a really just a Christian question for you, like a broad question. Did Joseph think after Herod died, based on the Magi and others, that Jesus was going to get coronated? I think it's a very fair assumption at this point. Magi say,
okay, so the question I have for you is, did he even know that Jesus is king? I think at this point we know that Joseph knew that Jesus was special. There's something about this child. He was born of the Holy Spirit. We don't know what it means, and I don't think he knew. It's based on the scriptures. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he knew that.
But the
Now, did
Magi
he?
visited him.
Okay,
He
but
saw what the Magi said.
okay, the Magi came and they worshipped him. And it doesn't say that they worshipped him as king. I mean, there's I think um, the question it begs the question: did Joseph know that Jesus is king, or did he even have this concept, or did he just know that Jesus was somebody special, and special not because he knows it, it's because the angel of the Lord told him so, right? I mean, he might not
I
have. He
mean,
might not.
when it says they worshipped him, we talked about the gifts being somewhat monarchical, but you could just say they're just gifts. I assumed the Magi would have said, "We're here to worship the Messiah." Otherwise, he's not. Hi, Joseph, can we come in? Who is it? There's a star outside of your house and a bunch of Magi. We have a bunch of presents. Can we come in? He goes, "Why come in? We're here to worship you." I don't know. This is weird. And then eventually they have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So I assume Joseph knows what the Magi at least believe, and they're the one when the dream tells him that you have to go and flee. It just seems reasonable to think that he knew something. So it's a good question. When he said come back, what was Joseph's assumption about why he's coming back? Was it to take over the throne? Because we know it's not, when David took over, it's not like David's father was a king. It's not unprecedented to say that some baby, how old was David? The youngest of 6 kids. Maybe he was under 20. It's not uncommon to say like some baby will take over. We have other times of Judean kings that they're placeholders for kings until they get old enough.
So it does raise a question, right? If Jesus is king, and if Joseph believed that King Herod is dead, but there's a king who will replace him. Did Joseph think that Jesus will replace him then? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So probably, because again, Jesus being
what was his assumption at this point? It's really hard to know what he was thinking, because the question is, even when Herod died and then Herod Antipas took over for, let's be honest, for all of Jesus's life, like not a small amount. I mean, he was there for a long time, and he was confirmed right away. I think right after Herod died. So it's a question about what was the expectation, and I don't think we could figure that out.
So I have a question for you on this topic. So the person who succeeded Herod, did he not know about this prophecy that this Magi came and they did this thing? At least the evangelist doesn't make any mention of this. There is no mention of of what his successor did, and if he
So if we read the text closely, we see that Jerusalem, Herod, the rabbis, and the high priests were aware. To say that Herod Antipas, who was originally ruling in the Galilee, would have not heard of this based on the New Testament, I think is crazy. But again, I think when we look from a historical perspective, you got to realize, was Jesus important during his life? It's a really good question. And for example,
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I mean, John the Baptist, for example, was recognized during his life, universally, at least from Josephus's perspective, as a prophet of God. He was kind of like the man. Jesus, on the other hand, was not universally accepted, even by his followers and the team, as a prophet or as Haggai. And it's unclear, at least from a monarchical perspective, like John the Baptist caught the eye of the Herod Antipas who killed him. Jesus is unclear about how much he caught the eye of the ruling parties. We know the Romans he obviously did, and we know from the gospel that at least the Jewish people, the ruling Jewish people, felt uncomfortable with something he said.
I think
It's unclear about how much he did.
Yeah, isn't it fair to say Jesus was an enigma to most people? Like even John the Baptist didn't fully know who he was. Initially, he baptized him, and then he said, "Are you really the king, or should we expect somebody else?" And so, because this thing about Jesus, we cannot put him where he does not fit in any defined category.
Right. So when we get to John the Baptist, there's I think four beliefs about the relationship of John the Baptist to Jesus, and we'll get to that when we get to that. But Jesus's life is not as celebrated during his lifetime as other people.
or is it that he does not fit in our in our defined categories of what of how people should be, or what, or we didn't have any way to understand who he when he lived on this earth. Didn't have a way to understand who this person was. There's something about this person. He's here, he's there, he's all over the place, and so they didn't have a framework to understand, or
Okay.
to make sense of him.
So let's just wrap up
I have
20.
a question. I have a
Okay.
question on what you said earlier. You said on the topic of arise, that the Jewish law starts with this word. Like, which verse is that? It's
Well,
not
I'm just saying
Genesis
like,
30.
so I'm just saying like, the in Genesis, not forget about Jewish law for a second, but in Genesis in
13, yeah,
13,
13.
17,
Yeah,
the
I had
verse
seen that.
says, God said to Abraham after Lot had parted him, here's all the land, blah, blah. And 13:7 says, arise. And in Hebrew, the word is kum, get up, go, hitalech ba'aretz, go walk the whole land. It's almost like the way for him to claim the land, to fulfill his destiny, is fulfilled in that one moment. God promised that you're going to get the land, and now Lot's gone, and some other people gone. He's able to get up and arise. So get up is almost like take your destiny into your own hands. So I think it's interesting that the only like kum, wake up, Joseph, leave the land. This is the one time where it's like coming back. I think it's the appropriate usages of get up, of a kind of fulfilling a destiny perspective of what's happening. And it could be like his destiny is just to get the baby to Israel. That's his goal. And again, it points out, get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. Doesn't even say return, just go. For those who are trying to take the child's life are dead. Okay.
Yeah, we don't think we. I don't think we answered the question. Why is Jesus not addressed by name? Mary, we
Well, again,
discussed
like
it.
the
Yeah.
answer we said, the answer at least is because they're quoting what the angel of the Lord said to Joseph in his dream. So there's again, like it just seems it's directed at Joseph. Joseph, take your kid and your wife and get back there. It's like that. Okay, Isaac. Good times.
Good times. Okay. On that note, Rabbi, thank you. We've made it to the 30th of December 2020. Wow.
Wow.
Tomorrow's the 31st. Okay.
Tomorrow. Yeah. Wow. Very exciting times. Okay,
Okay.
Isaac. Good speaking
Thank
to
you.
you. Hopefully, speak to you soon. Okay, bye.
Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.